welcome to the Well Child Show. Hello and welcome once again to the Well Child Show, brought to you by Global Child Health and Safety Initiative. My name, as always, is Kemak Onyenaucheya, your host, and I'm so glad that you're spending the afternoon with us on the Well Child Show, the #1 show on Nigerian TV that brings you education as well as information on global best practices in childcare, health, and safety. Today on the program, and of course with the onset of the coronavirus, we're going to be looking at the impact that COVID-19 has on the incidences of child sexual abuse. I have a very, very dear friend who is also a major force to be reckoned with in the issue around child safety and protection in Nigeria, and she's going to be sharing with us today from her wealth of experience on how parents can work around the pandemic to ensure the health, safety, and wellness of their children. Let's go on a very quick break, and when we return, the show continues. Please stay with us. You're welcome back to the Well Child Show, brought to you by Global Child Health and Safety Initiative. My name is Kemak Onyenaucheya, and I'm your host. Thank you for staying with us. I have in the studio today my dear friend. She is, I call her Nigeria's #1 child health and safety advocate. She is the founder of the Child Body Safety and Abuse Prevention Initiative. Bolaji Gbadamosi, you are most welcome to the program today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I'm
and
happy to be here.
Yes, great. It's great to have you. You remember you were the first guest I had, the very first guest on the Well Child Show.
How time's flying.
Oh my word, you're very welcome to the show.
Thank
you
you
so much for, making out time to join us today.
Thank
so we're looking at the incidence of child abuse generally in relation to the pandemic that the world's experiencing right now. That's the coronavirus, or popularly known as the COVID-19. Okay, but first of all, I think let's discuss a bit. Can you enlighten us a bit on the different types of child abuse? I think we should start from there.
I think I will start by defining abuse as a disrespect for children in any form, whether by physical, emotional, and sexual or psychological abuse. And now, because of the pandemic and things that have been happening before, they're adding domestic violence to the type of abuse on children, But a lot of times, people concentrate on sexual abuse. But sexual abuse is major, but I would still regard emotional abuse as the most famous.
Oh, really?
Yes, because for sexual abuse, we tend to see what is going on. We tend to know who the abusers are. We tend to know who the groomers are. But for emotional abuse, a child might be emotional abused for 20 years and you will not know what's going on. For sexual abuse, there's physical appearance, there's the sexual orientation that goes around the child that you can see. If I see a child, not everybody, but there's a thing that you look out for when a child is abused, whether by the way they walk, whether by their level of exposure to sexual terms, And those are the 4 types. Now we're including domestic violence to abuse on children. But all in all, I always think if you respect children enough, if you understand what it means to be a child from 0 to 18 years, then you should respect everything that the child stands for. Right.
Okay, now we're looking at domestic violence. And of course, even when you go on social media, look around you, there's such a report. It's almost like the floodgates are open.
Yeah.
And then this issue occurrences of domestic violence is just so. And in our part of the world, a lot of times we use discipline to cover up for what you call domestic violence on the child. Where do we draw the line between discipline and crossing over into abuse of the child?
when you say you want to discipline a child, you have to definitely have a good relationship with the child. Yes. So the difference between crossing the line is the relationship you have with the child.
Wow.
Yes, if you're disciplining a child and the child knows that at the end of the day you're correcting him or her for a particular thing, and you draw him closer and make him understand why your action was this way or that way, that is discipline.
Right.
But when it comes to abuse, is repetition of something or causing harm to the child. You know, you have crossed the borderline of discipline.
And there's no boundary.
And there's no boundary. You know, when you get to a point where all you do is hurt the child emotionally, speak on word in repetition, something the child, you can look away, you keep repeating it in the child's life, you know, you break the child's self-esteem in the first place. You know, so crossing the borderline means you don't have a relationship with the child, whether it's your child or someone else's child, or maybe your granddaughter or your grandson or your niece or nephew or your sister, you know. So that's a big question that a lot of people don't understand when it comes to discipline and crossing it to abuse. Discipline a child, let them know why that is happening to them, and let them know that, yes, I still love you, but I have to do it. But at the same time, you keep beating, you keep putting words on the child. So how do you expect it not to cross to abuse? It is an abuse.
That's quite interesting. Okay, let's look at, over the week, I was having a phone conversation with someone.
Okay.
And the first question he asked me, this is a man in his 40s. He asked me a question, and I would like you to, you know, help us for the benefit of our viewers. What are some of the long-lasting effects of abuse on children, or even an adult, right, who experienced some form of abuse in childhood? What are some of these effects?
Okay, most of the time, it depends on the length of abuse, the duration of the abuse. There's some abuse that maybe it was just for a while and the child gets over it, you know. When it comes to, I'm trying to get the question again. When it comes to
the long-lasting effect,
the physical one we can see, but the long-lasting one might take years to even manifest. And this is why you see intergenerational transfer of abuse to other children, where the same man that was abused still abuse his own child, still abuse the people that lives with him, whether physically, whether emotionally. You know, this is like passing on transgenerational problem onto the other generation. So that's one effect that takes in and goes on for a long time.
So like you just perpetuation of the abuse.
Then there's physical health issue that happens. You know, we've seen a lot of videos online that we see stepmom beating up a child to stupor, burning the hand of the child, not feeding the children, you know. So all this thing, the child might end up having ulcer. The child might end up not being able to use the hand. Psychological problem is there. You know, it affects their self-esteem. You know, that's when you still see some adults, they cannot face a crowd. Not in terms of being shy,
right,
but because their self-esteem has been so messed up, battered, you know, they just feel they're not good enough for anything. And you see some long-term effect is when you just grow up and your drive for sex is so huge that nobody can control you. Yeah. So there are two types, you know. There's where you have this drive that you just want to have sex, and there's another one where it just doesn't mean anything to you. You see the other person like nothing, so you don't have that connection, you know, because you've been abused. And
so it's like two ends of
it's very, most of this effect are somehow to the extreme and somehow less extreme. So the less extreme still have effect in the long run. You know, you see a lot of people still homeless at this time right now. You see a lot of people overweight. I used to watch a program on DSTV, you know, and I realized that the people that have the support of their family and support them all the way, they have a headway in their weight loss journey. You know, and compared to the people that always have a story, they have to refer them to therapy, psychotherapists, you know. But I always say that the people that we see under the bridge are a typical example of child abuse.
Wow.
The people that we see homeless everywhere are the typical of child abuse. Someone pushed them out. Someone didn't take responsibility of their feeding, of their shelter, of making them humane enough. You know, so when I see, when you go to this, and it's not only on the street that you see these people. A lot of children are living in their houses and they still go through abuse. Those are the ones that they can't even talk about it. Wow. So the effect of abuse is so draining on adults that sometimes some people think they've forgotten, but it comes out of the subconscious and reflects itself unknowingly to them. You know that sometimes you just think, I cannot beat my wife. All of a sudden you just don't know what is.
It just erupts.
It just erupts because somehow you've grown to see those things when you were young and you have suppressed it without dealing with it.
Wow.
You know, so it's a long term.
You know, you raised a very valid, rather two very valid issues. Number one, the issue of homelessness.
Yes,
and people in the streets.
Yeah,
you know, it's now that you said it that I'm actually tracing the line back to what would necessitate a full-fledged, able-bodied human being to be on the streets without direction. And then speaking about experiences in childhood, now you just touched on something. For parents that, or maybe like spouses that physically abuse their spouses, that is actually abusing their child indirectly.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that's why they are having domestic violence.
Right.
Because what happens in a child's life stored in the subconscious. So indirectly, you're feeding the child. You know, the children feed with their eyes. Children imbibe what they see. Right. Sometimes not what they hear. So all of these things, and when you know they keep reviewing child abuse, theory of child abuse, the solution to child abuse every other month, every other year. So I mean, I was happy that domestic violence was included. Yeah, it was included
because it does have an effect on the child,
yeah, it
even
does,
though the child is not the direct
recipient. Yeah, it does.
Wow, this is great. Before we go on the break, I want to, you know, let's touch on this. With the coronavirus and the necessitation of the lockdown that people had to stay home, there seemed to be, I mean, you are professional in this field. Is it that the number of violence cases, particularly against children, increased? Or was it just a case of a greater focus on that issue? With the lockdown, was there like an increased, you know, number?
Yeah. It's just unfortunate that Nigerians, we are getting there, but Lagos State is trying to start recording sex offenders, domestic violence of victim and the offenders. Yes, there is an increase in child abuse and also child sexual abuse because a lot of children go to school. That is their refuge.
Wow.
Yeah, that is where they hide. And when they are not at home, they don't see a lot of things that's going on. Imagine, an abuser, a father abusing the child, an uncle, or a neighbor abusing the child. When the child is in school, you know, it's a coverage for that child. You know, the teacher tends to oversee the child's life at that moment. So they are escaping that situation at that particular time. So school saves a lot of children that, you know, whether we like it or not, they're able to talk to their friend, to overcome or to overlook what is going on in the house or in the environment. So, there's a spike, yes. Even Lagos State has recorded there's a spike in domestic violence, there's a spike in child abuse, because Lagos State now have records of what is going on in the states. So for other states, because you know we hardly hear the stories unless it's on news or anything, but it's definitely a spike because they are always home now.
Now this gives a lot of heartache, I must say, because the home is supposed to be the bastion of safety and protection for the child. So what's the hope? What hope do we have as a professional in this field? Like, are you despondent? Are you seemingly saddened to the point of hopelessness? Or like, what is your hope?
I just believe that education solves a lot of things. It might not be education in the class, you know, but by general sensitization, enlightenment,
just like what you're doing right now.
You know, general enlightenment, because a lot of children that are abused, right, even in their home, they don't know it's called abuse, right? So you know, but psychologically this thing is eating them up. But because they don't know, there's a lot of children that have been abused that when they grow up is when they come to like, oh, that was actually abuse. You know, so it's sad that where the family is the bedrock of everything in the nation, and it's very sad that some home, I can't say every home, are not doing what it takes to protect the child. It's sad, but at the end of the day, a father might not necessarily be the one that will bring the best out of the child. The mother might not necessarily be, because if they're not doing their best, maybe somebody else can do the job. Because a lot of people are falling off the bandwagon. You see some people along, I mean, maybe on the road in suit and tie, and when they speak, you know that, wow, this person is intelligent. But because of what has happened in their life, it's actually abuse one way or the other. Abuse has, it's not necessarily sexual, like I said earlier, you know. So it's a big problem that we have. The home is failing the children, family are failing the children.
Wow.
You know.
Whew, let's rest on that and go on a very quick break. And of course, everyone keep being safe out there. We have a message from a group of non-profit organizations called the Social Millennials Network, and we have a message for us on how we can prevent and halt the spread of the coronavirus. We'll go on this quick break and the show continues right after this. Welcome back. It's still the Well Child Show, brought to you by Global Child Health and Safety Initiative. If you are just tuning in, my name is Kemak Onyenaucheya, and today we're looking at the topic, the COVID-19 in light of child abuse in the home. And of course, I still have with me in the studio Bolaji Gbadamosi. She is a leading child health and safety advocate in Nigeria, as well as the founder of the Child Body Safety and Abuse Prevention Network. Thank you for being with us today, Bolaji. Right, now, before we went on the break, you made a statement that really hit home. You said the home or the families are failing the children. And that's in situations where children are exposed to abuse in the home. Let's talk a bit about parental oversight. Or before we go to parental oversight, now of course I follow you on social media and I see all the great work that you're doing.
Thank you.
You have this principle of collaboration in ensuring the safety of children. Can you tell us a little about that? Who are the stakeholders? How do they come together to ensure that the safety of children is preserved?
Yeah. When we look at collaboration, I always feel that there's a lot to a child than just having him in the house. He goes to school, he attends parties. I mean, he has family, he has relatives, he has friends. So stakeholders are schools, teachers, parent, grandparent, government, church, mosque, and everything that care about the child. Everywhere the child goes, they're all stakeholders. So I believe in that collaboration where whoever thinks about a child thinks something positive, thinks protection. I am of that school of thought that every child deserves to be safe. So I understand that it is not just the parent that can do that protection part for a child. He's in school. There's some things these children do at home that they will not do in school. Right. So they have different, like dual personality that, you know, they do some things in class and they come back home and they're all nice and all good. You know, some of those children are bullies in school and they come back home and they're very quiet. You know, some of these children are very outspoken at home and very quiet. So the teacher has every right to understand what is going on in that child. Not everything, but at least to an extent. You still have a part in that. Everybody that has a part in a child's life is a stakeholder.
Right, or that comes in contact with the child at any point in time.
The government, most importantly, the families, relatives, extended, nuclear, you know, the church, religious organization. And I think the NGOs, some of the NGOs that are doing a lot of work around children, because we've come to realize that government cannot do it all, and we have to keep the words out there that every child deserves to be safe. Right. So that's why I believe in a lot of collaboration with other stakeholders in a child's protection sphere. Right.
Okay, excellent. Now, of course, you mentioned that the home is the bedrock.
Yeah.
That's where everything starts. That's where the life of the child actually begins.
Yes.
Let's talk a bit about parental oversight. And I am particularly, like right now I have a niece, she's about 16.
Oh, wow.
And for about 2 days I've been teasing her about a particular male friend of hers.
Oh, okay.
Right? In school. And to an extent, growing up, we never had that kind of open lines of discussion and communication with our parents. But her mom, myself, everyone around her is trying to give her like a leeway, you know, to know that you're free to come to me. Yeah. I think that's a better way to, you know, address children, issues around child safety. But there's also the issue of, I keep saying, crossing the line.
Yeah.
In being watchful over their children, what would you advise? How would you, usually, because paranoia usually comes in.
Yes.
So what would you advise parents, or what steps can they take to be the best oversight that they can be over their children without necessarily allowing paranoia come into the picture?
I'll just put that in maybe like 1 or 2 sentences. Give your child a wing. And when you give the child a wing, let him fly.
Wow.
But you have to do the work of making sure that that child has the best wings, which is in your family values. Your family values has to be instilled in a child. When you leave them to be, you'll be rest assured that they'll be fine. And you mentioned something, that open communication, we never had it at our own when we were growing up. But this time, you know, I'm grateful to a lot of parents for being intentional about having an open communication with their children. Because regardless of what a therapy or therapist will do for you, they'll still come back home to you. So that open communication has to be wide enough. So I would just say, whatever wings you understand, if it's by value, it's by home training, if it's by opening them up to entrepreneurship at a very young age, these are values as well. These are instilling things into your child's life. These are the things that makes their wings very strong to fly. So when you're done that, then release them to fly. Wow. So that is, I mean, if you don't release them to fly, then you've really crossed the borderline of letting the child be.
Wow.
Yes.
Excellent. Now, we can't talk about child safety at this time without looking at the digital space.
Oh, yes.
Because, I mean, we're experiencing the literal boom of the digital age.
Yeah, thanks to COVID.
Right. Because every child, the average children, owns or uses, you know, digital devices regularly.
Yeah.
Let's go back to parental oversight. And of course there's the issue of online grooming, you know, of sexual predator sexting, like you just mentioned. How can parents ensure the online safety of their children? Because believe it or not, we can't, you know, prevent our children from, this is the new normal, digitalized living. So how can parents work to ensure that while their children are digital compliant, they are also safe in that space?
Okay. One thing is there are apps that can protect children from online inappropriate online content.
Right. Like digital apps?
Yeah, like digital app. There's one like I've forgotten one of the names. There are quite a lot of apps that protect children that you can install on your system, on your phone. There's a content app. They call I think it's Safe Phone app or something. You can install that, and there's a movement app where you can understand what is going on the feed of your child.
Oh, really?
Yes. So there's, if we dig deep enough, we will find out that a lot of resources are available for the protection of the children online. But because, okay, let's assume that a lot of parents don't know, and this is a platform to teach them, you have to tell them to be careful the kind of friends they choose online, because it will come up. We all have all this Instagram, for example. I mean, I've seen adult breakdown on Instagram because of comments, because of this, because of that. I mean, you need to prepare your child for it. You need to prepare. If you know you want them to go online, you need to, apart from these online classes that I've just started. And I'm very happy because COVID brought out a lot of things that we should have been doing for a long time. So parents still think that, okay, it's just the connection between the teacher and the student, right? So my child is protected because there's a teacher on the other side. I've seen a child looking at the screen or maybe the laptop and he's minimizing pornography.
Oh my word.
Right, yes. But you are right there and the child has a laptop here, so the teacher is teaching, so you don't know what is being minimized
on that corner of the screen.
On that corner of the screen, and you'd be like, yeah, Bomi, I hope you're doing well. Yes, mommy. But we need to let them understand that there are a lot of risk behind use of internet. If you don't tell a child something, you don't expect them to know it. You need to make them understand the risk and the long-lasting effect of what they're doing. I've seen children exchange apps to themselves just to entertain themselves from age 7, 8, 9, and 10. There are risks.
So the communication.
Pros, yes, the pros and cons to the use of the internet. But the pros outweighs the cons.
Right.
But parents need to teach both things. Right. Because internet is for education now, for entertainment and for communication. Right. They are the internet age. They are the Generation Z. You can't take them away. You can't take that internet. So I always believe that when parents tell me my child cannot go on YouTube, I always say something like, you're depriving the child of life.
Oh my God, we are so out of time. But
really?
We need to continue this discussion.
It's never enough time.
That's never enough time. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much.
And to you viewers, thank you for being a part of the show. Of course, our social media platforms, YouTube, and of course our emails and phone numbers are right there on the screen for you to be a part of what we're doing. And of course, I'm still calling on corporate sponsors and partners, come on board and empower us to do more. Look at, we're out of time, but Bolaji has so much to, to share with us. Thank you for being a part of the show today. I will see you again, same time on same station on another edition of the Well Child Show. Until I come your way again next week, always remember, child health and safety is everybody's business. Goodbye and God bless you. Speaking about this work, the actually start for children. Then hello and welcome